It's coming. It's
there you
coming.
go.
Okay, it says we're live. It says we're live. Hello, hello. We're live. It's 4 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock here in Costa Rica and Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, midnight in Dublin, 1 a.m. in London and most of Europe, 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. Wednesday morning in Australia, 11:30 a.m. I think in New Zealand, and it's Facebook Live. And Gio is staying up late so he could say hello because it's his bedtime now. And Marzi is bringing up Facebook on my phone so I can give a shout out to, oh, Jill is the first, and Jillian. Both came in at the same time as the first Wednesday. Thank you so much. Cindy Foley is here and watching. Thanks so much. Judy's here. Grant Mickler is watching. Hey guys, great to see you. Tell us where you're from as you check in, just to say hi. And I'm solo tonight. Our guest was going to be Dr. Joe Pizzorno, but he woke up this morning with laryngitis. And so he will be joining us another time, sooner than later. He has a new topic that he wants to talk about useless molecules. Honey, can you take them now? Okay. Anyway, Dr. Pizzorno will be joining us, but for tonight, you've got me. And I'm going to answer your questions so you can start sending in questions if you like. I've got some already that were sent in ahead of time. And I'm, night. Mwah. Mwah. A baby's love is like nothing else. I'm really so grateful. It's really quite sweet. Jillian's here from Boulder. Oh no, Jillian DiCaprio Butner. I thought it was Boulder without my glasses. Could Gio be more cute? I don't think so. Lucia's here from Tucson. Tammy's watching. Hi guys. Hi. Thanks so much for being here. So the first question. I've heard that eating mushrooms or fatty fish and getting sunlight is the best way to get vitamin D. Is the supplementing really worth it? That's a really good question to start with. Thank you, Andrew, for that question. So let's look at our bodies. Our bodies are designed to live on planet Earth, and we have the same body as our ancestors. Well, did our ancestors live in buildings 22 hours a day? And the answer is no. They were outside. So they would get exposure to the sun on a constant daily basis. Now, if you ever watch animals in the wild, when they're resting, they always rest in the shade, right? They're not resting in the sun. And that's probably how it was for humans also. So we are not getting the amount of sunlight that our ancestors were getting. So on that basis alone, it's difficult to get enough sunlight for most of us. We take Gio to the beach most every Sunday, and I have him under a SPF 50 tarp cover, so there's no direct sun getting on him ever, unless we walk along the beach. But he's exposed on a regular basis to being in the shade on a sunny day. And so I'm hoping that's going to help his body develop its own familiarity with the sun without having complications as he gets older. So the first part of the answer to your question is that we aren't living the way our ancestors lived and the way our genetics designed for survival, meaning being in the sun quite a bit. The second part of the answer is critically important, and I'm going to bring it up here because it really tells the tale that, sorry, I have to find out. I wasn't prepared to answer that question. Here we go. So let me share my screen for a minute and show you this, because nothing says it better than a picture. So let's do the picture. Look at the title of this paper. COVID-19 mortality risk correlates inversely with vitamin D3 status, and a mortality rate close to zero could theoretically be achieved at 50 nanograms, meaning if your blood test says you're at 50 or higher, the mortality rate is close to zero, meaning you still might get sick, but if you have enough vitamin D, it's highly, highly unlikely that you're going to die from it. Highly unlikely. And this was 2 independent data sets. There were 8 studies that they looked at, 8 hospital studies and 1 population study. So the discussion about vitamin D, is it important to have adequate amounts of vitamin D? The answer is absolutely yes, because your immune system works much better. Now, there's a number of reasons why that happens, but most doctors aren't familiar with this one. Vitamin D will inhibit immune activation. And that's completely opposite. What? I thought vitamin D supports the immune system and working better. It does, but it also inhibits the immune system. And those studies came out, this was back 2012. And they found 4 people buried on an army base up in northern Alaska in the tundra that died in the 1918 Spanish flu. And because they were buried in the tundra, their bodies were perfectly preserved. They didn't decay. They were frozen. And they said, let's dig them up. Let's find out what happened to these people, because we have the technology today to do autopsy and we know so much more. And there was a big hullabaloo, said, no, don't expose that virus again. But they took precautions and they dug them up. And they found out that these people died by what we now know is a cytokine storm, meaning the immune system was overactive. There are cells in your lungs and rest of your body called macrophages. And macrophages are there to protect you. They're like sentries standing guard. And when an invader comes in, the macrophages fire their chemical bullet. It's like a high-powered sniper rifle. Boom! They fire their chemical bullet to destroy whatever the invader is. That's a really good thing, and we need that. But what they found out in these people who died, all 4 of them that died, they died because their high-powered rifle, the macrophages in their lungs, did not fire a high-powered bullet. That the trigger got stuck and they fired submachine gun. Pop, 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 pop. And we now call that a cytokine storm. Now, the trigger, the spring on the trigger, that when you pull the trigger and fire your high-powered bullet, the spring that pops the trigger back is completely controlled by vitamin D. And these people have vitamin, now they didn't test them for vitamin D, that it was an article that came out after this article about the 4 people in the cytokine storm. Then an article came out in the journal Blood, which is a really prestigious journal, and they identified that the trigger, the spring on the trigger is completely controlled by vitamin D, meaning it puts the brakes on firing chemical bullets. And the analogy I give is, you know, if you're driving down Telegraph Hill in San Francisco, and we've all seen that hill in movies where cars are racing down and flying over and down and flying over and down. If you're driving down Telegraph Hill, you better be riding your brake, right? You've got one foot on the accelerator maybe, but the other foot's on the brake, so you don't go too fast going downhill. That is the immune suppressing function of vitamin D on macrophages. And it doesn't work, it doesn't get activated on resting macrophages. Only after macrophages have been activated to fire chemical bullets does the vitamin D convert in the macrophages to the active form, and it puts the brake on. It's really very cool. when you study this. But bottom line, now this paper comes out that tells us if your vitamin D is 50 or above, your chances of mortality currently are near zero. That's why I've said this so many times. Everyone needs to get their vitamin D checked. I'm not saying everyone needs to take vitamin D. Everyone needs to check and see, is my vitamin D at 50 or above? The range that we've always recommended is 50 to 80. Some papers say up to 90, but above 50. But the laboratory, when you get your vitamin D test back, depending on the laboratory, the usual normal range is somewhere around 30. So if you're at 32, it says you're normal. And your doctor say, oh, don't worry about it, you got plenty of vitamin D. See, it's normal. But now we know with this current threat, if it's above 50, the chances of mortality are near zero. That's so very cool. I was so excited to see that. We'll put a link here to the vitamin D test. It's a finger prick. You just order a finger prick test, and especially for those that have autoimmune diseases, a history of a compromised immune system. Do you want to know if you have a history of a compromised immune system? It's not just those that have cancer or had cancer, but rather, do you get the flu every year? You're down for a few days to a week. You've got a compromised immune system. It's not normal to get the flu every year. It's common, but it's not normal. And that's the difference. So a few more shout outs here. Hello to Dawn. Amal's here. Thank you so much. Amal, good to see you. Trudy's here, says Zoom is not working properly. I'm not quite sure what to say, Trudy. Maybe reboot your computer and come back. Maybe that would help. Betsy's here, Lucy's here. Tell us where you're from, guys. It always excites me to know that Antoinette's here from coastal Maine with gale winds tonight. Well, thank you for joining us. We've got strong winds here tonight too, and it's really unusual. We had them last night too. Really unusual to see those. My cousin's here. Hey, Carol. Hi. My cousin in Pittsburgh. Nice to see you. All right, let's go to another question. I get misty-eyed when I know that my family's around. It's really nice. All right, let's see what we've got here. If you have a diagnosed autoimmune disease, personally rheumatoid arthritis, but are not on immune suppressing drugs, but are eating a properly prepared, grain-free, nutrient-dense diet, properly prepared with supplements, are you more at risk to contract the COVID virus and have a more serious reaction? Basically, if you're living a healthy lifestyle but have an autoimmune disease, are you in a high-risk category? That's a really good question, Jeanette. You're at less of a high risk compared to those who are either diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and living the lifestyle that caused the autoimmune disease. So you're at less of a risk. But if you have an active autoimmune disease like rheumatoid, meaning your blood test shows you have elevated antibodies, you're missing something. Something is triggering the production of those increased antibodies. Something in your environment. Go back to some of the previous Facebook Lives or many of my talks where I talk about Professor Fasano, Alessio Fasano from Harvard Med School, and the 5 pillars in the development of autoimmune diseases, actually in all chronic inflammatory diseases, including autoimmune diseases. And they all begin by an environmental trigger that changes the microbiome, which creates the inflammation in the microbiome, which creates the leaky gut, which creates the big molecules getting through the leaky gut into the bloodstream, which activates your immune system trying to protect you. So it fights those big molecules, whether it's chicken or beef or spinach or bacteria, whatever it is. And those antibodies fighting whatever the macromolecules are, those antibodies for you have a genetic similarity to the collagen of your joints. So those antibodies to fight chicken will attack the collagen of your joints, and over the years, you develop rheumatoid arthritis. So kudos to you that you're living a healthy lifestyle with everything you've learned so far, which is great. But if you still have elevated antibodies and the diagnosis of rheumatoid, you're missing some environmental triggers. Don't know what they are, For that, I'd suggest you work with your functional medicine doctor or Michelle Ross. Michelle, who I've worked with for many, many years, and her URL is michelleross.com. And we'll put a link in here to Michelle's website and work with her. She is a great investigator, and she'll help you find out what else has to be addressed besides the things that you've already addressed. Any thoughts on the effectiveness of CBD oil lotion to provide inflammation relief for minor arthritis? Yeah, it works. It helps while waiting for healing to take place. It works. Many, many people have testified about that and how CBD has helped them with their joint inflammation. So, but the question is, why do you have the inflammation, right? And that's where you look to everything that I just reviewed. Are you familiar with cold agglutinin disease? I am not. Sorry, I can't comment on that one. Dear Dr. O'Brien, my brother has asthma and proctitis ulcerative. I need your advice how to heal him. I'm reading your book about autoimmunity, autoimmune fix. My brother's 32. He's lost 8 kilograms. Please help. My son, he is 23. He has diabetes type 1. Sincerely, okay, Iveta in Latvia. Hello, Iveta, and thank you for being here tonight. Okay, if you're reading the book, you understand the questions that have to be asked. And ulcerative proctitis, where an itis. An itis is an inflammation, and I don't want to sound simplistic, but where's the inflammation coming from? Is it gasoline or kerosene? What is it? Is it foods? Is it mold in the house? Is it bacterial infections? Where is it coming from? I don't know where your brother has to look, but because he also has asthma, a good place to start is what he's breathing. Is that where it's coming from? Although it's not, that's not the only thing that triggers asthma. Food sensitivities are notorious. Marcy was in the hospital many times as a child with severe asthma, and she didn't know that she was a celiac, right? So she's eating wheat all the time. She just didn't know. And when she stopped eating wheat, her lungs cleared up very, very quickly, never to have a problem again. Is it worth treating autoimmune illnesses with high-dose vitamin D? Tough to say. If your vitamin D is low, there's another paper that came out. Maybe it's easily accessible here. I'm not sure. Let me see if it's easily accessible. Bear with me while I'm looking in my computer. Let's see. Is this the one? Nope, that's not the one. There's another one that is very helpful, but that's not the one I was thinking of. There's one paper. Nope, that's not it. Sorry, I've got a bunch of papers open down here because I'm working on a number of things. But if I can find the one, nope, that's not it. If I find the one, it answers the question, psychiatric symptoms in non-celiac wheat sensitivity. That's not it. Let's see, where is it? Nope, that's not it. I'm sorry, I'm not pulling it up and I don't want to keep you hanging on there. But the paper talks about people who are admitted to the hospital with COVID, and they checked their vitamin Ds, and they were put into 2 groups. Everybody got the same pharmaceutical treatment, everyone. But one group, if they had low vitamin D, they were given 60,000 units of vitamin D a day, every day. The other group was not. They all got the same pharmaceuticals, but one group, if their vitamin D was low, they got this large amount of vitamin D. And what the paper tells us that in 9 to 11 days, depending on body weight, every single person who was given that dose of vitamin D every day, all of their markers of inflammation from COVID went back to normal range, every single one of them, with no side effects. And they went home. They were discharged and they went home. The others that were given the medications but no vitamin D, they were still, most of them were in bad shape at 9 to 11 days. So sometimes high dose vitamin D can be very helpful, sometimes. But just because you've been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease does not automatically say you need high dose vitamin D. You have to check your vitamin D level and see where is it now. If it's between 50 and 80, no, you don't need high dose vitamin D. If it's below that, getting it up to 50 to 80 will help a great deal. And in the study I just referenced, they gave high doses for 9 to 11 days. Every single person improved. So that's the answer to the question about vitamin D and autoimmune illness. And in general, every autoimmune patient I've seen, almost everyone needs more vitamin D. In general, that's the case, but you have to check. And once again, it's a simple finger prick test, and you can check very easily. Hello, can hypnotherapy help autoimmune disease if trauma is a trigger? Absolutely. Can emotional trauma raise markers like TGF-beta1 and C4A? Absolutely, absolutely, no questions asked. In my book, You Can Fix Your Brain, I talk about the pyramid of health. And there are 4 sides to a pyramid. And you'll say, no, there's 3 sides. No, there's 4. There's a base, and then the 3 sides that go up. The base is your structure. That's the home of chiropractic and massage and exercise and posture and sleeping positions and all of that I've seen miracles with chiropractic care. I'm not exaggerating. Miracles that I've been to every doctor and no one can help. And they come in and they have spinal problems. You fix the spine, they get better quickly. One of the sides of the triangle is biochemistry, and that's where most of us focus: drugs, nutrition, diet, the air we breathe, the biochemistry. The next side is the emotional or spiritual, and the 4th side is the electromagnetic. Any side of the pyramid can cause any problem, bottom line. So the emotional, spiritual side, we've seen it many, many times. It's the missing link. And for that, there's 2 people I recommend you consider if you don't have a expert to work with on the emotional side. And we'll put the links here. My friend, Dr. Silva Dvorak at DrTOMOBRYANGLUTENFREE and Dr. Martina Finnery. They're both superb, and they both work online with private consults. They're first class. Dr. Dvorak comes from the heart, and the first time you talk to her, you get that. And Dr. Finnery lives in her heart, but I call her a white witch. You know, she lives in the countryside in Ireland. And don't mess with this woman. I mean, she's loving and compassionate, but she's not going to put up with any bullshit. Excuse me, but you know, if you want to deal with your issues, either one of these people can gracefully work with you and guide you into looking at these things that have been so overwhelming emotionally that they may be suppressed. They're both excellent at what they do. What supplements help with hair loss? None. You have to find out, why do I have hair loss? Most common for men is that you're not breaking down testosterone very well anymore. And there are some supplements that can help that, but you have to identify what's your testosterone level, what's your free testosterone level, to see, do you have a problem with breaking down testosterone? Is that a contributor? On many talks, I show the slides of a person that, a 43-year-old man that had alopecia, meaning he was losing his hair. And he had been to a couple of dermatologists, no one could help. And he went to another doctor, and in the questionnaire, oh, by the way, yeah, I've got heartburn. And so the doctor checked that, and this guy had a bacterial infection in his gut called Heliobacter. So he said, stop all that alopecia medication. It's not working. You're still losing your hair. So just stop, and let's get rid of this Heliobacter infection. So they did. And you see the pictures of this guy. Man, it's worth bringing that one up. So bear with me again. I'm here on my own tonight, so I can show you pictures and bring things up. So let me bring this one up for you because this is a jaw dropper. When you see this one, let's see, there we go, case studies. Now this takes a moment to open. I've got about 1,000 slides, literally, about 1,000 slides in the case studies PowerPoint. So it takes it a moment to open up. But it is in the process. I can see the bars going across. It's opening. And here it comes. Come on, you can open up now. I got the spinning wheel here. There it comes. Okay. Now it's open. Now I have to scroll down to find the picture. So bear with me for a minute because it's pretty jaw-dropping when you see what hair loss, what it looks like when he starts to get better. So I'm scrolling, the Creedence Clearwater song, rolling down the highway or rolling down the river. Here we go. Here we go. So let's now share screen. Rolling down the river, rolling. Okay, here's my screen. So let's do this one. This is an autoimmune disease secondary to bacterial molecular mimicry. This is a talk I give to doctors. 43-year-old guy, 8-month history of losing his hair in his scalp and his beard. So that's what it looked like to begin with. And you can see there's no stubble here in box C. That's hair loss, just like on the top of his head. And I put the arrows there because doctors don't usually look at the beard to diagnose alopecia, but it's a component. And he'd seen the dermatologist, he was on the steroid creams and all that, but he had a history of stomach upset, so they checked him for H. pylori, the bacteria, and it was highly positive. So they gave him the medications to kill the bacteria. They told him to stop all the other medications for alopecia, they're not working. And 6 weeks later, they retested and the bacteria was gone. And this is the picture of him at week 4 when he came in. This is the picture at week 8. Here's week 16. Here's week 44. And here's all of them. I just took them apart for the slides. But A, B, and C is when he first came in. And you see what happened to him over 44 weeks when they killed the bacterial infection in his gut. Now, that's what molecular mimicry is. Molecular mimicry is when your immune system, as I talked about with autoimmune disease for rheumatoid, and the macromolecules that get in through the leaky gut into the bloodstream, your body fights those, but because of your genetics, the antibodies will attack the collagen of your joints, you get rheumatoid. For somebody else, it attacks your hair follicles and you get alopecia. So when you ask, what do I take for alopecia? The answer is, why do you have alopecia? You can't shotgun stuff and allow the process to continue. You've got to find out, why is it happening? And that's my book, The Autoimmune Fix, talks about all of that kind of big picture concept so that you then ask the right questions so that you can get rid of this hair loss, and get your hair back again. So let me close out on the that presentation, get that out of there so I can see my questions again. Here we go. Let's see. I have primary biliary cirrhosis. It's in my body attacking my biliary ducts. What do you think this started by? Well, most common that I have found is food sensitivities and environmental chemicals. And you have to be tested for those to see what is it that, for example, cosmetologists, hairdressers, they're working on all these chemicals all day, every day, and they're breathing them in. And it's not uncommon to see an autoimmune disease developing. Any food to repair leaky gut, doctor? Yeah, there's a whole protocol. Matter of fact, I just went through it last night in our Base Hits program. And we'll put the link here for Base Hits, and it'll give you a little explanation. Base Hits is a very private group where I just go for 2 to 3 hours usually answering your questions. I talk about a topic and then all the questions that you've got. And last night the topic was the gut and the microbiome, and how do you repair a altered microbiome and a leaky gut. The leaky gut is because of an altered microbiome that developed over years, and you have to repair that. So there's no pill to take that's going to do that for you. There's a whole protocol to follow. So I'd suggest you take a look at Base Hits, and they're all recorded. So we're in session 4 now, and part 2 was last night of session 4. And you can go back and review part 1 and part 2, and part 3 and 4 are coming up in the next few weeks. But it's about a 25-minute explanation on how do you rebuild a healthy microbiome and repair leaky gut. Should I take statin drugs for high cholesterol? Absolutely. If your doctor is recommending statin drugs, it's worth considering. Absolutely consider it. But one study showed that when you're recommended statins, if you do a 6-month protocol beforehand, natural ways to reduce cholesterol, if it doesn't work, then take the statins, and you're really doing well, because the natural protocols, the diet, nutrition, will reduce the amount of continuing plaque. So you're not going to make yourself worse. That came out in a study, and I don't remember if it was the Journal of the American Medical Association or not. I think it was the American Heart Association. I think that's where it came out, but it was in the 1990s. I'd have to go back and find that one. But they give a 6-month window where it's safe to try natural products first. But if the natural products don't work, you do what you have to do to get your cholesterol down. So you need meds for a while, you take the meds. But you have to find out, where is it coming from? I'll give you an example. Stress hormones. You have a high busy life, you're type A personality, you're working hard in life, you're a lawyer, or whatever you do, but it's a high stress job. The stress hormones need cholesterol as the raw material to make the hormones. Cholesterol is the raw material for estrogen, testosterone, stress hormones, melatonin, serotonin, insulin. They're made from cholesterol. So if you don't have enough cholesterol and you've got lots of stress and you need those stress hormones to survive out there, then your liver is going to make more cholesterol. So the question is not, how do I get the cholesterol down, but rather, why do I have high cholesterol? That's the $1 million question. And you got 6 months to figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, you take the meds, and then you continue working to try and figure it out. This is what Base Hits is like, guys. One topic, all the questions that come in on one topic, so you've really got that dialed in. How do you support Tregs? You support Tregs by taking the load off your immune system. That's number 1. What does that mean? Well, your immune system has a bank account of reserve. And if you're withdrawing from your bank account all the time, you can't build a healthy Treg balance in your bank account. You can't do that because it's being drained all the time. Activate more macrophages, make more T cells, fight the chicken that I'm allergic to, so make more antibodies to chicken. That the T cells are just a step in the ladder of your immune system protecting you. So if you've got low Treg cells, the question is, why do I have low Treg cells? And the first thing you do is you look to see, where is the inflammation coming from? What are the environmental triggers? And the second question is, how do I rebuild my microbiome? Because of the immune system is in your microbiome. Those are really safe initial places to begin. Do children work like buffers to COVID-19 because of TIMUS, T-I-M-U-S? I think that's a spelling error. I don't know, but I don't know what that should be. Should we really vaccinate them with the recombinant vaccines? I am dead set against vaccinating children with an experimental vaccine that has never been proven safe. Professor Yehuda Schonfeld is the godfather of autoimmunity, and I don't say that lightly. When I interviewed him for his new book at the time, Vaccines and Autoimmunity, that was the name of his book, 28 of the PhD students who received their PhDs in immunology from him, there are many, many more, but 28 of them chair departments of immunology in med schools and hospitals around the world. They're his students. This is the godfather. And he published a paper about 5 months ago now that identified when you get the virus, when you get the vaccination for the virus, and your immune system makes antibodies to the spike protein, which is what they inject you with, a recombinant version of that. Those antibodies that your immune system makes, which is what vaccinations are supposed to do, is stimulate antibodies. But those antibodies, because this is a really weird vaccination that you just got that's never been proven safe, those antibodies, because of molecular mimicry, just like what happened to the guy who's losing his hair because of a bacterial infection in his gut, that's molecular mimicry. Molecular mimicry of the antibodies against the spike protein, Professor Schonfeld showed those antibodies attack 27 different tissues in the female reproductive system. You develop an autoimmune mechanism in the female reproductive system. They just didn't check males. This study was on females. 27 different proteins in the female reproductive, like the protein that opens the connection of the fertilized egg so that the egg sticks to the wall of the inside wall of the uterus. That protein gets attacked by the antibodies to the spike protein from the vaccination. 27 different proteins from this unresearched, not proven safe vaccine. So, no, I don't recommend it for children. No. I'll stop there on that one. How to strengthen adrenal glands if there is diagnosed Addison's disease and lifelong supplementation of corticosteroids. There's also Hashimoto's. That's a strong case. And one of the base hits was on the adrenal glands, and I went through all of the exercises, what to do in the shower for your adrenal glands, what points to rub, what foods, and that's all part. By the way, the highest concentration of vitamin C in the body is in the adrenal glands. That's why vitamin C is the anti-stress hormone. So you have to have really good vitamin. I talk about the Linus Pauling protocol for vitamin C. That's all in the base hits for adrenals. What causes rheumatoid arthritis? I've read different things. How do I explain RA to family and friends without being too technical or vague? The molecular mimicry that I just explained with the guy that lost his hair and with the vaccination and the female reproductive system, that molecular mimicry, that has been shown in a number of studies that bacteria, different bacteria, if you have too much of the wrong kind of bacteria in your gut and it gets in your bloodstream and your immune system makes antibodies to fight that bacteria, because of molecular mimicry and your genetic vulnerability, those antibodies to fight bacteria attack the collagen of your joints. That's rheumatoid arthritis. There's always a trigger. When you read my book, The Autoimmune Fix, and that's how you explain this to your family, is you read the book. You know, I can't tell you in 3 minutes how do I explain rheumatoid arthritis? Because you have to have the big picture. Your question's a really good one because I refer to it as the elevator speech. What's the elevator speech for rheumatoid arthritis? How do I help people to understand? Meaning you're in an elevator with someone for 30 seconds to a minute. How do you explain it in 30 seconds to a minute? That's the elevator speech. And you get that when you read the Autoimmune Fix. I don't mean to pass the buck here, but it's not as easy as your question would suggest. Can anything help with tinnitus? That's ringing in the ears. Yes, many things can. The question is, why do you have tinnitus? And that's what you have to explore. Karen, on your question, very common one is mechanical in the neck and the upper back that contributes to it. Tips for accelerating the healing of shoulder injury. Most likely a muscle, as the x-ray looked fine. I think the chiropractor called it frozen shoulder. We're doing red light therapy at home and using a vibration plate. Those are good. Those are good. And if you're not getting better every few days, a little bit more motion, a little bit more motion, a little bit more motion, then the question is, where's the emergency brake that's stopping me from healing faster? And once again, where's the inflammation coming from? And that's what you have to look for. And that's what functional medicine tells you. And I don't mean to pass the buck on this. And look, I don't know if you can tell, do you see this drop here on this shoulder compared to no drop here? I had a major ski injury in 2000, March of 2000, which ended my professional career as a chiropractor. I couldn't adjust anymore. I'm permanently partially disabled. And so I know shoulder injuries. I know serious shoulder injuries. And you have to look at where is the inflammation that's inhibiting my healing. That's the critical component in healing properly. Is Thrivogen dairy and corn and rice free? Yes. Also, I noticed a lot of adrenal supplements say not to take if on thyroid meds. Is this true? And does iodine count? Iodine is, if you have if you're low in iodine, you need more iodine. And if you're high in iodine, you don't need iodine. So you just have to check and see what's my iodine levels. And there are tests that your doctor can do for you to check on that. And in terms of taking, I forgot the first part of the question was about adrenal supplements with thyroid. Let's not lose the questions that quickly. A lot of adrenal supplements say not to take if on thyroid meds. I've never had a problem with that in terms of recommending adrenal supplements. I don't recommend them very often anymore. I've got, I came out in practice and cut my teeth on hypoadrenia. For years, we were working adrenal glands, and we still do, but we know the bigger picture now, which is the functional medicine principles that are outlined exclusively in both of my books. We'll put the links here for the books. Do you know what causes have a treatment for jaw clenching? Yeah, the question is it structural? Which the jaw clenching is a structural thing, but why is it there? Is it a structural imbalance, which might mean a good chiropractor can help? Or it's not often biochemical, it's not foods, and not often, but it often is emotional or spiritual. And I don't know, my experience is limited with electromagnetic causing jaw clenching. I don't know too much about that. But certainly the emotional or spiritual. And if you knew what the problem was, you deal with the problem. But the point is, you may not know. You say, oh, I'm fine. And as soon as I said emotional, if your brain said, I'm fine, I don't need a therapist. If you did that, that's what you need. That defensive response, because you didn't say, oh, I'm fine, I don't need supplements, or I don't need food changing. But if you did this, oh, I'm fine, I don't need a therapist. If you did that, that's the problem. And that's where you have to go. And that's when you should see Dr. Dvorak or Dr. Finidry, because they're both loving, compassionate, but no nonsense people that'll guide you through that process. Hashimoto's with elevated TPO trigger yet unknown. Autoimmune protocol diet, gluten-free, dairy-free, et cetera, for 4 years. GI workup for slow motility with endoscopy, colonoscopy. An MD wants gluten introduced before testing. No, absolutely not. You don't need to do a challenge. Would you suggest gluten introduction? Absolutely not. You can do the wheat zoomer, because you zoom in on the problem. It's the most sensitive test out there, and it's extremely rare. I think we've had 3 or 4 now in 5 years. 3 or 4 people that had adequate immune system function so that the tests are valid. Because any test you do for your immune system, if your immune system's burnt out, the test is not valid. So if you have a functioning immune system, we've had 4 or 5 people in 5 years come back normal on a first test for wheat zoomer, meaning almost everyone comes back positive on a first test. It's highly sensitive, highly accurate, and on a follow-up test, they better come back normal or much, much better if they follow our protocols. But no, gluten introduction is not necessary. You will, if you do the zoomer and it comes back positive, I've been gluten-free. Well, you're getting exposure somewhere. And it often can be a cross-reactivity. And once again, Michelle Ross at theDr.com. We'll put the link in here. She's great at explaining this and working with you and guiding you on the questions to ask so you can keep working with your doctor if you want to. But here's the information you need, and here's the kind of question to ask in a way that doesn't bruise his ego, right? So that you can have a conversation with him. I had inguinal hernia surgery with mesh 3 months ago and was left with numbness from the scar down to the groin area. Is there anything that I can do to help the situation? Yeah, it's the scar. It likely is the scar. We have seen such dramatic results working on scars. The scar, when it heals, should be the same color as the surrounding skin. The better the surgeon was, if you had a really good plastic surgeon, you can't even find the scar sometimes, but it should be the same color as the surrounding skin. And when it's not, there's an energy blockage. Now, I'm not getting airy-fairy on you. We all know acupuncture has been around for 5,000 years. It's got to work if it's been around that long, right? And it works on energy circuits in the body. And when there's a blockage in an energy circuit, the scar might be darker than the surrounding skin. And if there is a deficiency in an energy circuit, the scar might be white or lighter color than the surrounding skin. So you need to work the scar. You have to work it. And a simple way of working it, take an ice cube and just rub it across the scar back and forth and move. Just stretch it a little bit, lean back, bend forward, twist, turn. Nothing extravagant, just start moving while it's cold. We use ethyl chloride, it's a spray to do this, and the results sometimes are miraculous, just miraculous. But that's the first thing on the checklist I would look at when you've got numbness, radiating numbness from a scar. Besides the wheat zoomer, do you recommend genetic testing for gluten problems? No. Why? 1% of the population has celiac disease, but 30 to 35%, depending on the study, of the population carries the genes. Well, it just means that if you cross the line of tolerance with wheat and you carry the gene, you'll get celiac. If you cross the line of tolerance with wheat and you don't have the celiac genes, you'll get schizophrenia, or you get rheumatoid arthritis, or you get psoriasis. Doesn't matter. In my opinion, it really doesn't matter, because every human has a reaction to wheat when they eat it. And I've gone through this so many times, it's in both of my books, but every human, when wheat comes out of the stomach into the first part of the small intestine, the sentries standing guard, called toll-like receptor 4. Toll-like receptor 4 gets activated when wheat, not just gluten, but many components of wheat come out of the stomach into the first part of the intestines, toll-like receptor 4 gets activated. And two things happen. One, it causes transient leaky gut within 5 minutes. This happens in all humans who eat wheat. And that's what they say at Harvard Med School. Dr. Maureen Leonard, famous gastroenterologist, she said, this occurs in all humans who consume wheat. That within 5 minutes of wheat coming out of the stomach into the first part of the small intestine, you get transient leaky gut. Now, what does that mean, transient leaky gut? Well, Mrs. Patient, you have an entire new body every 7 years. Every cell in your body regenerates, every cell. Some are really quick, some are really slow. Some of the fastest are the inside lining of your gut. Every 2 to 4 days, you have a new lining of your gut. So you eat toast for breakfast, tears the lining of the gut, transient intestinal permeability, but it heals. You have a sandwich for lunch, tear somewhere else in the lining of the gut, but it heals. Pasta for dinner, tear somewhere else in the lining of the gut, but it heals. Day after week, after month, after year, and you're creating this inflammatory environment in the gut with the microbiome every time you eat wheat, until eventually you don't heal anymore. Now you've got pathological leaky gut. And that's the mechanism with all humans. It happens to every one of us. That's why when you do the wheat Zoomer, it's rare that it comes back negative, as long as you have a healthy immune system that's working well. Because this happens in all humans. And there are a few that have not yet crossed the line of tolerance. And for those 4 or 5 that we've had in the last 5 years, we always tell them the same thing, and that is, you're one of the lucky ones, but make sure you check this about every year, because at some point it's likely you're going to cross that line of tolerance and you can't eat wheat anymore. So all humans have this reaction that nicks away and nicks away and nicks away and nicks away until you get leaky gut. I said there were 2 things that happens when wheat comes into the small intestine. That's the first thing. It activates the protein zonulin in leaky gut. The second thing, it activates the major amplifier of inflammation, NF-kappa B, and you get more inflammation in your gut. The major amplifier, why did they call them garage bands back in the 60s? Because our parents would tell us, take that racket out in the garage, get it out of the house, because the amplifiers were too loud. And so we'd have to run extension cords through the bedroom window because there was no power out in the garage, you know, and we play out in the garage. That's why they're called garage bands. But the amplifiers were too loud. NF-kappa B is the major amplifier of inflammation in the body. And every time you eat wheat, toll-like receptor 4, the sentry standing guard, activates NF-kappa B, the major amplifier of inflammation in your gut. So those 2 things happen, transient leaky gut and inflammation in your gut. And the inflammation creates the environment for more bad bacteria. And this happens with every time you eat wheat, so that eventually you get what's called dysbiosis, which means a lousy microbiome, an inflammatory microbiome. And that's when you cross the line of tolerance. And now you've got pathological intestinal permeability or leaky gut. And that's when the blood tests come back positive. And most people come back positive with the wheat Zoomer because of that on a first test. 6 months, a year later, after you've been working with us, it better come back normal. But that's why it happens that way the first time. Is this of interest to you guys? You know, I'm just rattling on. And I'll tell you, you know, what helps me is if it resonates with you, you send me a heart or you send me a thumbs up or something. Because I can't see your faces and I don't like talking, you know, I'm looking at myself on a screen and it's boring looking at myself. Oh, thank you. Here they come. So thank you. So as you know, if something resonates with you, just give me a thumbs up in this. Is there any way to get a continuous glucose monitor in the US without a diagnosis and prescription? My dad was able to get one. Diabetes for decades is helping. Yeah, you bet. There's a new company, Levels, Levels. Go to levelsblog.com. Look at their blog. and they were in beta still, but they had tens of thousands of people in beta. But it's a patch you wear on your arm, and it connects to your smartphone, and it'll tell you your blood sugar all the time. So you eat a meal, and then you look 20 minutes later. Wow, look at my blood sugar! It jumped to 190. And I mean, it's just an excellent, excellent piece of equipment. Levels, Levels, and go to levelsblog.com. How often should you use the infrared sauna? You transition like everything else. You transition into it. And when you first start out, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, but you have to remember you're sweating a lot. And so you have to get in the habit of replacing minerals so you don't develop a mineral deficiency, and you have to hydrate when you're in there, right? So, and you take minerals and electrolytes but some of my friends do it 5 days a week. I never got to that. For me, 3 times a week was enough. But I'm going to set one up here. We're moving soon, and in our new place, I'm going to set up a sauna and an ice bath. And so I'll probably do saunas more often. But I think 3 times a week is very, very healthy for you. And if you're going to do more than that, you really have to dial down the compensatory things to make sure you don't develop nutrient deficiencies. Tips after surgery of small malignant bladder cancer in older woman. It'll take place next week. Oh, well, best to you on your surgery. We have a whole protocols and handouts for our patients on things to take before and after surgery. Can't give it to you because you're not a patient, so I can't tell you what to take because these handouts have dosages and all that. But you want to take a lot of really good nutrition. You want to make sure your diet's squeaky clean, meaning lots of fruits and vegetables, preferably organic, especially for bladder. Was this bladder? Yeah, bladder cancer. Critically important. Maybe the most important thing you could do is to go organic now. So before your surgery, take tomorrow and look around for sources of organic food in your area. Now, most major cities have farm co-ops where you can join a farm that's growing produce, and they share a box with you every week or every 2 weeks of whatever they're harvesting. And you find organic farms for this. But most of us are thinking about the topic of organic or conventional fruits and vegetables the way we thought about it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and it's a different world today. It's extremely different. That the level of toxicity has never been recorded in history as high as it is now in our fruits and vegetables. So we used to say the Mediterranean diet's really good for you, but now I have to say, in all consciousness, an organic Mediterranean diet with lots of fruits and vegetables. And we talk about the rainbow diet. And if you can't get organic for some reason, then we'll put the link in here to my green fills so that you get a veggie wash and you wash everything before you eat it so that you get most of the pesticides and insecticides and fungicides off of these fruits and vegetables that they're just poisoning our food today. And that's a topic for another actual full Facebook Live. I'll bring an expert on and we'll talk about, Dr. Pizzorno is the go-to guy in the world. And so when he comes back on, we'll talk about that a lot. Have a large kidney stone possibly caused by too many oxalates, spinach, nuts, high vitamin C intake without enough calcium. Doctor recommended eating dairy with every meal, but I'm lactose intolerant and have broken out in teenage acne from trying to add in dairy. What's a better approach to keeping a balance of oxalates and calcium to not create more kidney stones? And is breaking up a 15 millimeter kidney stone with laser in hospital incredibly expensive the only way to eliminate the kidney stone, or are there natural ways to break it down with diet? One of the, I'm told, most painful things a person, top of the list, there are a few things. Pancreatic cancer is one, kidney stones is another. And so I can't recommend a natural way. I'm just not experienced enough. But I tell you where you go to Dr. Jonathan Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T. And he had a newsletter called Nutrition and Healing. And he turned that over to another doctor, Dr. Glenn something or other. But the newsletter is Nutrition and Healing. And they had some great articles on kidney stones. And I just don't remember the specifics of them, but you can get really good information and you can trust that newsletter. It's a great newsletter. What should I do if I present high TSH, but also a satisfactory free T3 level? Selenium levels also good. That's a really fun question. So TSH means thyroid stimulating hormone. There's a message coming from your cells saying, I need more thyroid hormone, I need more thyroid hormone, I need more thyroid hormone. And so the brain sends a message to the thyroid called thyroid stimulating hormone to make more thyroid hormone. So the TSH is high, but the thyroid hormone level, T3, is normal. Well, it's one of two things. Either your body is whipping the dying horse and your thyroid is on its last legs trying to produce for you enough thyroid hormone and it's going to crash. That's called a thyroid storm. Or the thyroid hormone is not getting inside your cells. So it's in the bloodstream, but it's not getting inside the cell. And if it's not inside the cell sends a message, I need more thyroid hormone. Where is it? Okay, it's out there on the highway, but I see it driving right by on the highway at 70 miles an hour, but it needs to come over here. Hey, over here. Hey, yo, thyroid, and it's gone in the bloodstream. It just keeps going down the bloodstream. So it's one of the two. And most common is the second. So why does that happen? Well, I'm not seeing any thumbs up, so maybe, I'm not getting, I'm not capturing you guys with this one. I'll tell you why it happens though. It's either chlorine, bromine, or fluoride, or the combination. They bind up your thyroid receptor sites so the thyroid hormone can't get inside the cell. And for those people, they need to get all chlorine and all fluoride and all bromine out of their diets and their lifestyle. You need chlorine shower filters, get dental Sidon toothpaste, and we'll put the link in here. It's the best toothpaste in the world that I know of. It's really great. You need to get rid of those chemicals that bind onto your thyroid receptor sites. And infrared saunas, we've always put people in infrared saunas with these recommendations. And we've dropped those TSHs fairly quickly when we've done that. That's a very common. Oh my gosh, it's already 5 minutes after the hour. I have no idea. I thought we've been going for about 20 minutes. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here tonight. This was fun. So I hope Dr. Pizzorno feels better quickly. And I'm sorry we couldn't get to all the questions, but there are some, I don't know how many. Oh my God, there's 232 questions. So we'll get to more of these next time. But it's a real pleasure being with you. So thank you all so very much. Thank you for being out there and your feedback. And thank you for the hearts and the thumbs up. That's really great. It's great to see that on my phone. Makes me want to do more of this. So thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.